Hey everyone, I'm Ashleigh Banfield. I will get to the true crime program in a moment. First, the breaking news about these two National Guardsmen who were shot today just within 1,000 feet of the White House. A couple of things that you should be updated on. And first, can I just say, this is the eve of Thanksgiving. And so I am sure that I can speak for all of you to say our hearts go out to the families of these two National Guardsmen who will be in the hospital for Thanksgiving, fighting for their lives. They're in critical condition tonight, instead of at their Thanksgiving tables tomorrow with their families. Let me get you the very latest on these two West Virginia National Guardsmen and what happened to them today. The suspect in this case is apparently an Afghan national, Rahmanullah Lakhwanal, age 29, apparently came to this country after the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. That was in 2021, after we opened up Operation Allies Welcome. So many of the Afghans who had helped the United States were then in peril of dying under the Taliban, and so we welcomed in many of these Afghan nationals. Apparently, Mr. Lakhwanal was one of them, and we are told that he overstayed his permission to stay in this country. It was apparently due to expire in September, so he was here illegally. And what we're also told is that these two National Guardsmen were shot with a handgun and are in critical condition. The shooter, we're told, was also severely wounded, because obviously with all of that fighting force, they were able to respond very quickly. What's new also tonight is just within the last hour, the President of the United States released a statement on video. He had recorded it earlier, so I just wanted to play for you a piece of what President Trump said about this incredibly tragic shooting earlier today. Here's the President. And I think we can all agree with the president on that point, no matter what your politics tonight. I want to bring in our our White House correspondent for NewsNation, Kelly Meyer's been working all day and into the evening. I'm sure you expected to be home with your family on this Thanksgiving Eve. Kelly, just get me up to speed on the situation for these two guardsmen, the rest of their, their fellow guardsmen, and what the story is tonight.
Yeah, hey there, Ashleigh. It's good to see you, and I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. You know, it's not often I cover crime, and this is an intersection of crime and politics, and right in my backyard, really. This is just 2 blocks from the White House. This is the metro stop I take every day. It's just behind me, so it's a block behind me. You can still see the activity there tonight. And this really just shook Washington, D.C., and really the rest of the country. This happened at 2:15 in the afternoon. I was actually just taking a lunch break and 2 blocks away from where this happened, and I walked back outside. My photographer here with me, he was pushed into the White House briefing room because the U.S. Secret Service was yelling at any of the media on Pebble Beach, as you know, right on the North Lawn, to run inside to the briefing room and stay away. We didn't know if this was something happening at the White House. We didn't know what was going on until we heard later that it was 2 National Guardsmen that were shot, and tonight are still in critical condition in the hospital. As you mentioned, we're learning more about the suspect tonight, but a lot of this detail, a lot of this unfolding throughout the day, we're learning more and more tonight, and we expect to learn more going into tomorrow. But this has certainly shaken Washington, D.C. The president, as you mentioned, talking about mobilizing an additional 500 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. in the wake of this shooting. So we are already seeing action being taken, but we have confirmed tonight from our official sources, U.S. officials, saying that this is an Afghan national, that this is being investigated as a possible act of terrorism. That is one of the things that the FBI is looking into in this. But a lot of details still need to be discovered in this, but certainly, as you can tell, Ashleigh, an active situation here. Police activity still outside, just 2 blocks from the White House. I will say the president, just so everybody knows, is not here at the White House tonight. He is in Florida at Mar-a-Lago for Thanksgiving. But certainly the Secret Service was all around and responded, I will say, very quickly in that moment. Ashleigh.
And obviously an active crime scene where you are. We can see the reflection of the cruiser that's near you, still active. I do want to ask you one really quick question. This is what I haven't been able to figure out today. Usually National Guardsmen are heavily protected. Their bodies, they have Kevlar, they have helmets. I just don't know if you were able to notice all of this happening within 2 minutes a walk to the White House. Were you able to notice, were they wearing Kevlar vests? Were they wearing protective clothing? This is a handgun. I cannot believe this could happen with a handgun, to troops who should otherwise be very protected.
Yeah, and they are. I mean, I see them, everywhere we go. At every metro stop, there are National Guard waiting outside. They're on the platform, and they are right here at Farragut West where this happened. They are wearing protective gear. We don't know exactly, and still don't know the details of just how close the suspect was in this shooting, that he, came up and approached them unexpectedly, where they shot the 2 National Guard members. There are some still details that we need to figure out, but they are protected. But this seemed to catch them off guard and was certainly a violent attack on these 2 National Guardsmen.
Did they change their locations? Are there still, and I know it's hard to hear with the sirens, but have they changed their National Guard posting, or are all of those 2 National Guardsmen's fellow guardsmen still in that area, still standing watch wherever they were posted?
It's hard to tell right now, Ashleigh, because this has all been blocked off through the day. So you can see the police tape here. So we can't get any closer from where we are. This is 17th Street. So we can't get any closer to 17th and I, where it happened. I was on 17th and Penn when the shooting happened. So 2 blocks down. And that's where the White House is as well. So we haven't seen exactly, but I do know that when I take the metro throughout the district, there are National Guard at really every single stop. So I did see National Guardsmen walking around the area, even today after this happened. So they still will be here. And as the president said, they're deploying even more in the wake of this shooting. So I'm sure they will still be standing guard there again.
It's also really weird. I'm not going to lie, Kelly, when I read the details from the police chief that gave a news conference earlier today. The D.C. police chief's name is Jeff Carroll. I should tell our audience while we're watching this live. By the way, if you see anything, just break in. Please, Kelly, if something's happening near you, just break in. But he said that the suspect rounded a corner, fired at the guard members, was quickly subdued, quote, after some back and forth. And I'm just sort of wondering, what corner can you round and come upon a fighting force like this with a handgun and be able to get off 2 shots to 2 so critically?
So I don't know exactly where it happened or where exactly that all played out. But I do know when you come up from the Farragut West Metro, there's a section where you can kind of come out, and there is this opening that if they were around the corner, you wouldn't quite see the suspect coming around. There are some areas there, the way the Metro comes up and then you exit, there could have been a way. I'm not quite sure, just based on the pictures. And we don't know exactly how the suspect still was subdued. To your point, we don't know exactly, was that from other National Guard that were in the area? Were there others in the area? Honestly, I didn't hear any shots of when the initial shooting happened, but I did hear a shot that seemed to be the one that was the one for the suspect in this, because I was so close by when this all happened within that 10-minute span. It happened at 2:15. So we just don't know the exact details, and I'm hoping there should be a press conference here tomorrow morning, and I'm hoping we'll get some more details in that, because there certainly must be some other heroes in the situation that stepped in to help, and hopefully we get some more clarity on that.
Well, now Kash Patel says it's a federal-level investigation, that the FBI is taking the lead on this. They're usually pretty tight-lipped, but hopefully we'll get more. And like I said, Kelly, I'm sorry you're having to work late on this Thanksgiving Eve, but break in and let us know anything if you hear it. Thank you for this, and I wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving. I wish it were on better circumstances.
Thank you, Ashleigh. It's good to be with you.
You too, Kelly Meyer, out there live for us out in front of the White House. Just to recap, I mean, good God, 2 guardsmen. Two West Virginia National Guardsmen in the hospital fighting for their lives, critical condition. The shooter severely wounded, also in the hospital. We'll update you as soon as we know more. But I did promise you a true crime program tonight. That's true crime on the politics side. Here's the rest. And this might be the biggest development in the David and Celeste investigation. Of course, since the police, spent hours raiding that singer's former Hollywood mansion back in September. The Los Angeles Times just broke the news that an LA County grand jury is now hearing evidence submitted by prosecutors related to that runaway Celeste's death, or what police are now actually calling a murder. The Times calls this an investigative grand jury, something that's used to subpoena witnesses and other evidence. While this kind of grand jury can recommend charges, it can't do the actual indicting. But true to form, the LA District Attorney isn't commenting. We did get this statement, non-statement, whatever you want to call it. It says, in accordance with longstanding office policy and California law, we are not at liberty to discuss or disclose any information about grand jury proceedings. There you go, end quote. So that didn't get us anywhere. But now it's official. The investigation into the death of Celeste Rivas-Hernandez is, in fact, a murder investigation. And here's how we know that. We told you on Monday that police got a court order barring the medical examiner from making Celeste's autopsy results public. The LA Times now says that the LAPD petition for that order, because it was the LAPD that demanded it, right? The order says, and I quote, an investigation into murder. That's the LAPD's words, murder. And it claims that disclosing death details could, and I quote, endanger the lives of witnesses and or compromise the investigation. Wow. All right, so they're a lot further ahead than I thought. And this new reporting comes amid conflicting reports about the state of Celeste's remains, specifically whether her body parts had been frozen for weeks or even months before ending up in the trunk of David's Tesla, where she was discovered on September 8th. Remember, one day after her 15th birthday, clearly dead at age 14. Earlier tonight, I dug into all of this with the face and the driving force of TMZ, my old friend Harvey Levin. Here's our conversation. So, Harvey, an investigative grand jury, this was not something I expected.
Oh, there's so much in this case I don't expect. It's unsurprising to me, and I'll tell you why, Ashleigh. You know, and we know, we've reported this, that the LAPD is looking at David as a suspect. There were a lot of people in David's world, we are told, and people who were coming in and out of that house for many, many months around this whole time. And so there's a big circle around David. And my guess is the LAPD wants to talk to a bunch of them and others who were connected and not connected to David. When police come a-calling, a lot of times people clam up, and they clam up because they want to protect themselves, they want to protect a friend, they get scared, lawyer says don't talk to them. What an investigative grand jury can do is say, we're going to subpoena you, and unless you assert your Fifth Amendment rights, unless you have something that would incriminate you, you got to answer our questions. So these investigative grand juries are often used in cases where the LAPD or other police departments are having trouble getting information from witnesses. So that's why, to me, it's unsurprising that they've called this investigative grand jury. Plus, they can subpoena documents, videos, things like that.
What I'm also finding weird and bizarre and just, I guess, unprecedented is this battle between the coroner, the medical examiner, and the LAPD. The LAPD saying none of this business is true, but your sources impeccably saying it is true. And I'm wondering if this security hold that the LAPD demanded the court impose on the medical examiner, meaning ME, you can't say another word, is because maybe the ME hasn't given the entire file to the LAPD yet?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. The medical examiner has not even, as far as I know, officially determined a cause of death or the fact that they can't find one because of the state of the body. I'm told they may never be able to really determine what caused her death. I do not know what the state of toxicology is. I just know there are problems or were problems with it because of the body. Now, the medical examiner and the LAPD have not gotten along for several years. I had somebody in LAPD grouse to me last week We're the ones, you know how we found out about the cause of death for Matthew Perry through the media? They found out, one of them found out from us, Matthew Perry's cause of death. So there are hard feelings there. And when you look at what's going on there, it turns out the LAPD, this is the second bite of the apple. In September, mid-September, they went to a judge and said, we want to get the ME's file sealed, and the judge wouldn't do it. The judge said there's not enough evidence to justify sealing it because it's really unusual to do that. So they went back again a few days ago, and this time they got it. And the ME is angry. I mean, I have never in my life seen the ME come out with a press release. I mean, they're way back when I was a kid. I remember I was 10, 9, whatever. And I remember watching TV when Marilyn Monroe died and Thomas Noguchi came out, who was the coroner way back then. And that's the last time I heard from a coroner. And now they're coming out with a press release saying that we believe in transparency like the LAPD doesn't. And I just haven't seen that.
And most people now can't believe you were old enough to remember stuff when Marilyn Monroe died. I'm just going to put that on the table right there. Let's go back to the business of waterlogged fingers. They couldn't do what was called a live scan of Celeste's body parts because the fingers were quote unquote waterlogged. Can you explain what that meant?
Well, I can tell you that quote is from a medical examiner's document. We put it on our website. You're essentially saying what it is. It means that the fingers were in a state where you couldn't get a fingerprint that would lead to the identity of the person. It was, I suppose you could say, blunted by water. And what does water mean? I mean, it could mean a variety of things, but it does kind of align with the notion of frozen. So again, what I'm saying to you, and I want to make this really clear, the LAPD is disputing what we said about the body being partially frozen. The medical examiner, well, I can say, our sources connected to the medical examiner say that it was partially frozen when found.
It seems just odd to be partially frozen when found. I could imagine it being partially frozen at some point, but take a steak out of the freezer, leave it on your counter, and it's not going to smell for days and weeks, long until after it's thawed. But I am curious about the notion that it's possible the LAPD is mincing words, and that at some point, Celeste's body may have been frozen until whomever wanted to discard it figured out what to do, and then eventually she ended up in the trunk decomposing.
So here's kind of the way I look at it, and this is me from the outside looking in, so it's not like I got sources on this. I do know this, that the LAPD is making a big, big deal of this mysterious trip David took to a remote area of Santa Barbara in the middle of the night back in the spring, where he spent a couple of hours there. And that's a big deal. And it sounds to me like that's where they believe the body was in some way dismembered. I mean, that's the way it sounds to me. There are some people who think maybe that's where Celeste died, and I don't know, but there's some, the Santa Barbara trip is really important to the LAPD. I know that. So if that's the case, if something really bad happened to Celeste in the spring of this year, we are talking, say that was April. You got May, June, July, August, and then at the beginning of September, they find her body. Where was this body for 4 months? How on earth could the body just be laying out there, right? And I was told the body wasn't buried. Now, again, that's one source, but it's a good one. But where was this body for 4 months? And I can't answer that. And I'm perplexed by it. And the only thing I've been told is don't necessarily use logic here.
Well, I tell you what, I spoke with Dr. Dupree, who's a medical examiner, a former medical examiner, and she said if the body parts were frozen at any time, they can determine that through the change in the cellular, comportment, and they will be able to tell if that was the case. I'm also super fascinated that finally the word murder is being used. And it's being used in the court petition, as I understand it, that one of the detectives, Detective Joshua Briers, I think he's with the robbery homicide unit, put in this petition to the court First of all, acknowledging that there's a grand jury, so there's that. And second of all, saying that this is, quote, an investigation into murder. This is according to the LA Times. Is this the first time you've heard the words murder officially being used?
No, because again, we've been told, what to me, it's been characterized as a homicide for weeks now, internally, and that David is a suspect. So it's not hard to connect those dots.
I don't know. I think murder is a long way from homicide. That can be an accident. That can be all sorts of things. But murder is intentional. And that one surprised me.
When you look at it, I mean, I hear what you're saying. The cops, if this were, let's say, manslaughter, then the cops would know what happened and there would be some resolution. There's foul play here. I mean, Ashleigh, the body was cut up. I mean, it was clear. The LAPD has always believed this was foul play.
Yeah. Why do you suppose they're saying that to reveal, that divulging any of the medical information, again, medical information would reveal or tend to reveal the ongoing investigation and the integrity of the investigation, as well as the identity and or informants who are cooperating with law enforcement? It could endanger the lives of witnesses and or compromise the investigation. This is about the medical information.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how the medical examiner is going to release informant information. That seems to be in the province of the LAPD. So I don't quite understand that. I will say that your view seems to be shared by the medical examiner himself, because according to the medical examiner, there should be transparency here, and this should be released. What I don't know is, was the medical examiner a part of the case when the LAPD petitioned to have it sealed, or was it just kind of, one day they get an order saying, by the way, the judge just ordered it. I don't know if they were part of this, but it's really interesting to me that the LAPD failed at this once and then had to go back a second time. So the medical examiner must have clearly known the LAPD was trying to do it, and they seemed to oppose it because the LAPD had to go back a second time.
Well, listen, I think it sends us into the holiday with a lot more questions than answers and far more mystery. I'm just going to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and all the folks behind you, your TMZ family as well. Thank you, Harvey. So appreciate this.
And right back at you, Ashleigh.
And still to come, murders are hard enough to solve when the scene is preserved, the evidence painstakingly collected, and witnesses readily available. But what if none of that is possible? Anna Kepner was murdered on a cruise ship, possibly murdered. But that ship was cleaned, prepped, and set sail with thousands of new passengers in a matter of hours. So is it easier to get away with murder on the high seas? You're about to hear the answer and how it affects Anna's investigation. Plus, if you're looking for something to binge over Thanksgiving, check out my true crime podcast, Drop Dead Serious. There are hundreds of murder mysteries on there. Just pop in the AirPods and drown out all the arguing. You can find it on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms. Drop Dead Serious. Back after this. Just hours after the Carnival cruise ship Horizon arrived back at the Port of Miami on November 8th, a body bag was offloaded through the service port far below the gangway. And that body bag contained Anna Kepner's remains. And then the ship set sail again, within hours, with thousands of brand new passengers filling all those freshly cleaned cabins, hallways, and restaurants and bars. So what does that mean when it comes to investigating the mysterious death of this 18-year-old victim, right? And we don't even know at this point if Anna Kepner was murdered. We know she died. We know it doesn't look right. But how does a shipboard crime scene investigation even work? How does it even start when the crime scene itself sails away? My next guests know. Jack Hickey is a maritime trial attorney, and Jennifer Coffendorfer is a retired FBI agent, friend of the show, and worked with cruise ship crime before. Welcome to both of you. Jennifer, let me begin with you because we're talking about a potential suspect here who's just 16 years old, a minor. And I'm not exactly sure how it works with the FBI, with international law, and, with federal crime. How are they going to treat this kid?
Well, essentially, there's doctrine. It's the Juvenile Delinquency Act, and that delineates what happens when the FBI is investigating a juvenile, how that's going to be adjudicated. Essentially, there's two ways, Ashleigh. One is they have to be increased to an adult, considered an adult, and then that way the FBI will continue the investigation and it'll be adjudicated federally. However, way more than 90%, the majority of cases actually are transferred to the local jurisdiction when there's a juvenile involved.
So, Jack, jump in here. I was just so curious about what happens on board. I mean, this death happened while they were still sailing, and it didn't come into port until many hours afterwards. Can you walk me through what happens on board? I mean, do they have a mini police division? Do they have detectives? Do they have crime scene tape? What happened?
So, Ashleigh, thanks. You know, cruise lines and cruise ships do not have a governmental police force on board. There are no neutral investigating people who can come to the scene. Everybody, all security personnel on all cruise ships are employees of the cruise line. Carnival is no exception, and they have, they have these security patrols and security personnel on board that are just their employees, and of course their allegiance, their loyalty is to the cruise line. Yes, they have protocols as far as, a crime was committed and they found this crime. They found this woman's body the next morning. But whether they observe that or not, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't.
So if they get a suspect, and in this case they didn't, but I am just curious, if they have a suspect in something as serious as what could be a murder, do they have somewhere to keep that suspect until they reach dry land?
Yeah, that's a good question. So every cruise ship, certainly of this size, and the Carnival Horizon is a tremendously huge cruise ship, a passenger capacity of almost 5,000 people. Every cruise ship has a brig on it, right? The old word for a jail or detaining facility on board. So yes, they have the capacity to do that. Apparently, they did not do that here, or so we think. Right now, it looks like we had the tip of the iceberg in terms of information and in terms of the evidence. And you bring up a good point. Is he is this stepbrother, and this is the current thinking, is the stepbrother is a part of the investigation. Is he a target of this, or is he something lesser than a target? We don't know that yet.
So, I think the critical question here would be, Jennifer, since you have worked in concert with cruise ships and cruise liners in your work as an FBI agent, do they play in the sandbox well? I mean, when that cruise ship came into port, they flipped that thing so fast and out it goes, clean as a whistle. Would the FBI even have enough time? Would the cruise ship even invite you on board and give you enough time to put up the tape, collect any evidence you can? Like, how does that work?
Well, I can tell you, Ashleigh, from personal experience working a murder aboard a cruise ship in the Virgin Islands, that what happens is when you enter on that ship as a representative of the FBI, first of all, the relationships with the cruise liners is developed well in advance of that. As the SSRA in the Virgin Islands, I personally had a great relationship with the individuals in the cruise line industry. So when that particular murder happened, we came on board, and I don't want to say we didn't commandeer everything, but certainly they gave us a room. We set up a war room. The United States attorney that was in that district, actually it was the assistant United States attorney. He came into the war room, was a big part of the investigation. They provided rooms for us to conduct these interviews. Ashleigh, basically, we had as much time as we needed to conduct a thorough investigation and witness interviews.
Well, I hope that was the case this time around, but I want to have both of you back because I have so many more questions. In the meantime, I will wish you both and your families a happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ashleigh.
Jennifer Coffendorfer and Jack Hickey, and they will both be back. Okay, so still to come, she was just 12 when she plunged a knife into her little friend 19 times. Yeah, 12. All of it to appease Slender Man, a fictional character on the internet. But now Morgan Geyser is very much an adult and made a grown-up decision to cut off her ankle monitor and escape her halfway house. Coming up next, the body cam from the moment that she and her pal were caught and cuffed.
I don't want to give you my name.
Okay, well then we're going to arrest you. We're going to take you an ID. We're going to hold you an ID at the station. So you don't want to obstruct an officer. Give me your name and date of birth. You're not wanted for murder, right?
Right.
You're not wanted for murder, right? Well, more of that, plus this exclusive interview with a second suspect, right? The pal, Morgan's best pal. And plus, where is Morgan headed now? All next, don't go anywhere. "11 years ago, Morgan Geyser, a little friend of hers, decided to stab a 12-year-old friend 19 times. Morgan is the one on the right. The girl on the left was released from her punishment, but Morgan was given 40 years in a psychiatric hospital. That little friend, thank God, survived. The thing is, that was 11 years ago, and this year, Morgan was given a gift. She was allowed to go to a halfway house. And instead of appreciating the gift, last Saturday, she cut off her ankle bracelet and ran away in the company of an older pal. About 24 hours and one nationwide manhunt later, Morgan Geyser and friend were spotted, reported, and arrested at a truck stop just outside of Chicago. And now we've got the body cam footage of the police trying to figure out just whom it was they were arresting. Have a look, and more important, have a listen.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
23?
Yeah.
How old is he?
She's transgender. She's
How old is she? 23?
43.
Okay.
I don't have my ID, but
All right, well, give him your name and date of birth, but we just got to make sure you're saying who you are and you say you are, okay? You're not missing stuff, okay?
Okay, what's your last name?
I don't know why I have to do this.
Because I don't believe you're 23, that's why. Okay? We got called here for a call, so just be honest. I want to make sure that you're not missing. As long as you're not missing, you can go on your way. Are you missing from somewhere? Just give me your name and date of birth and you can be on your way.
Okay, I'm 19.
Huh?
I'm 19.
19?
Yeah.
It's fine, you're still an adult. So,
Yeah, so what's your last name? No what?
I don't want to give you my name.
okay, well, then we're going to arrest you. We're going to take you an ID. We're going to hold you an ID at the station. So, you don't want to obstruct an officer. Give me your name and date of birth. You're not wanted for murder, right?
Right.
Okay, then there shouldn't be any problem.
Okay, you're making it bigger.
What's your last name?
Greece.
How do you spell it?
I-E-S.
I-E-S?
No, G-R-I-E-S.
Okay. G-R-I-E-S. What's your first name?
Stephanie.
How do you spell it?
E-P-H-I-N-E.
E-P-H-I...
A-N-I-E, sorry.
Now you did something wrong because she's coming back no record on files, and that means you're lying on us about your name. Okay? So now that's obstructing. I'm going to give you one more chance before we're going to take you in custody and fingerprint you. Okay?
Wisconsin as well, Charles
You
Roberts.
guys wanted for something?
Charles and Mary.
Why are you hiding your name? I don't understand. At this point, we're just going to detain.
Okay.
Please let her go.
Then,
Please let her go.
then give me your name.
I did something wrong. She didn't.
What did you
She
do
doesn't know what I did.
Okay, that's fine. I ain't.
Let me talk to you over here. Okay, I'll put it back.
What is it that you did wrong?
I did something really wrong.
What? What did you do wrong?
4 or 5 days.
What?
Okay.
She doesn't know my real name.
Okay. Well,
What?
give him your real name. Don't tell him.
Okay.
What's your last name?
Why? So he says he just can't give you the information.
Okay, so it's
Take him in custody.
Morgan.
M-O-R-G-A-N.
And then your last name?
G-E-Y-S-E-R.
G-U... What is it?
G-E-Y-S-E-R. I promise she did not know.
Geys.
ER.
And then what's your date of birth?
May 16th, 2002.
Okay. So Morgan is your first name, right?
Yes.
Geyser.
No.
Let me say goodbye, please.
Okay, we will.
I will never see her again.
Yeah, you will.
No, I won't.
3014. Can you take a name and date of
I
birth?
did something bad. Let me say goodbye.
We will let you say goodbye, but just stand by it until we figure out what's going on.
And you're telling me that your information that you gave me will come back to those fingerprints?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the information came back all right. Geyser's traveling buddy was ID'd as a 43-year-old trans woman named Charlie Mecca. Mecca told our NewsNation affiliate, WGN, that they met together at church 2 months ago, but that they had no idea about Geyser's past. But as for the group home getaway, here was the so-called plan.
We didn't have a real plan, just get as far away as we could. Just vanish. I just wanted her to be safe and not go alone. I'm worried if she went alone, it was going to come down right back to self-harm. She needed the support, and that's all I was trying to do. She's my best friend.
Charlie Mecca was charged with trespassing and obstructing identification and released. Morgan Geyser, who's now 23, did not fight extradition back to Wisconsin, where the process of revoking her conditional release to that halfway house, yeah, that's underway. Until then, she is a guest of the Waukesha County Sheriff. There's no word yet on whether she, too, is going to face charges in relation to the escape, but I will keep you posted on that. Coming up next, we're just hours away from Thanksgiving Day and one meal away from your Thanksgiving table. Not everybody feels the same way about that. Some people can't wait, but others are dreading the politics ahead. Have no fear, though. I have your back. Just ahead, grab a pen and paper, because I've got a checklist of true crime topics that are sure to keep the potatoes from becoming projectiles. Much better dinner table conversation next. Hey, if your Thanksgiving table is set to be filled with folks you'd rather not talk to because, you know, politics, oh boy, do I ever have your back tonight. I have a list of true crime topics for you to talk about instead, because nobody gets mad about that. It's agnostic. You can start with the stuff that we've covered just this hour, right? And then there are even bigger names that are coming into the news next week. Luigi Mangione, he's up in court on Monday. And one issue they're fighting over, the smoking gun evidence that was found in his backpack when he was arrested. Defense wants Luigi's gun, notes, electronics, all of it thrown out because they say the cops didn't have search warrant, but we'll see how that argument lands. And then also on Monday, opening statements in Brian Walsh's murder trial. The case got really juicy when Walsh up and pleaded guilty to, like, disposing of his wife's body parts, but said, I didn't kill her, though. Okay. He still insists he didn't kill her, but the trial starts. We'll see what he has to say. And then if all else fails, whip out your phone and show the table the latest pictures of Diddy. Because look, it kind of looks like Santa, which is apropos because his son, King Combs, is telling reporters there's a chance his dad is going to be home by the holidays, meaning Christmas. Like as in this Christmas. Yes, I know. I was there when he was sentenced. And his release date is more like June of 2028. So now it's got us wondering if he's going to get a pardon, you know, from somebody in high places. But I don't think so. So we'll have to just see. Like I said, everybody, you have got to figure out how to get over politics. And true crime does it. Our audience is neither here nor there on politics. So talk true crime. You can get away with it at the table. And if you really want, just put your ear pods in and get my podcast up and in that table. Drop Dead Serious. You can just smile at everybody and like pretend that you're listening to what they're saying, but you can listen to true crime instead. All right, coming up after the break, a pair of alleged burglars literally caught with their pants down, breaking into a restaurant in the dead of night apparently was a turn on. But you know what else was turned on? The security cameras, which saved these two the trouble of making a sex tape. It'll no doubt, though, be Exhibit A at their trial. I'm going to play you the somewhat G-rated version of this next. We leave you tonight with a new twist on the old smash and grab. Dateline Scottsdale, Arizona, in what might actually have been a date, now that I think of it, a very bad, illegal date. 2 people broke into a restaurant, ransacked the bar, and made off with cash, liquor, and a cell phone. But just before running off, they got busy on the restaurant's patio. And they didn't even cover their faces or any other body parts, for that matter, as they went at it in full view of at least one security camera. The staff of Mon Chéri, you can't make this stuff up. That's the name of the restaurant. It's French for my love. The staff discovered the crime the next morning, and then they saw the footage, and the jig was up. People who know the suspects told police where to find them, and tonight Clarissa Sakanic and Brian Morrow are in jail. Separate cells, charged with burglary. Their next big date is going to be in court, which also has surveillance cameras, but I trust that will be strictly business. Yeah. The video. It's always the video. Okay, folks, so I told you before, Thanksgiving's tomorrow. You do not have to get into arguments with your family. You can just talk about true crime. You can also put your AirPods in and binge my podcasts on Drop Dead Serious. I have a huge one coming out on Friday morning about the Barbie and Ken murders. People ask me all the time, where did you get your start in true crime? With this case. Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo. I still get goosebumps thinking about this case. So I did a huge podcast on it. It's dropping over the weekend, so I hope you will give it a listen. Right there, Drop Dead Serious. It's on YouTube. It's also on all your podcast platforms. I hope you'll do that. In the meantime, please do me a favor. Be thankful for everything you have, because know that there are many people who don't have what you have. And love your family no matter what their politics. I'll see you again after the weekend.